Before we get into this story about Jackie Wilson, let's lay out some facts about the man. Jackie Wilson was a pioneer when it came to crossing over to the pop charts as a black artist. Between 1957 and 1968, he had 55 top 100 and 24 top 40 hits. His voice had remarkable range, and he could effortlessly sing songs ranging from gospel, blues, standards, opera classics, and of course R&B. He was an outstanding live performer, so much so he was nicknamed Mr. Excitement. Always impeccably dressed, he'd often mark his entrance on stage by sliding in on his knees to the edge of the stage. He also liked to dive into the crowd, where his hysterical female fans would literally tear the clothes off his back. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted to follow Jackie Wilson on stage. Some of the greatest recording artists in music history were fans of his work. Michael Jackson studied Wilson and emulated his moves on stage. Elvis Presley was also one of his biggest fans. Presley watched Wilson perform as often as he could. Wilson once said that every woman is my woman. By the way he lived his life, he seemed to really believe that. He was married 3 times, and he had a multitude of extramarital affairs with children littered across the nation. He was once shot by an ex-girlfriend. He not only lost a kidney, but the bullet remained lodged next to his spine for the rest of his life. Despite all of that, he made a full recovery. White women were also fans of his, which the still segregated South found intolerable. This created some legal entanglements for him from time to time. He also drank heavily for most of his life, and was also addicted to both amphetamines and cocaine. Oh yeah, and he also was owned outright by the mafia. Despite earning a lot of money, the tax man and the courts looking for outstanding child support payments from him were always on his tail. Eventually, his home was seized by the IRS due to unpaid taxes. In 1975, he suffered a heart attack while on stage, and for the next 8 years or so, he was half dead and half alive. During that entire time period, he was unable to speak. How was Jackie Wilson able to pack all of those things that we just talked about and more into such a relatively short lifespan? Let's find out. Jackie was born as Jack Leroy Wilson on June 9th, 1934 in Highland Park, Michigan. He was the only surviving son of his parents, who'd had 2 children before Jackie, but neither of them had survived. Jackie's father, Jack Sr., was an alcoholic who was never known to hold down a job, at least not while he lived in Detroit. In fact, on Jackie's birth certificate, his father is listed as unemployed. Jackie got his singing ability from his mother, who was raised singing gospel music around the house. His parents divorced when he was 6. At that point, his mother began a common law relationship with a man named John Lee, who worked at the local Ford auto plant. When Jackie was about 9, he met Frida, who was his best friend's sister. Frida would eventually become his long-suffering wife. Young Jackie told Frida he was going to marry her, and was already asking her for kisses when he was only 10. Jackie had a liberal upbringing, and he was free to pretty much do what he pleased whenever he wanted, wherever he wanted. You know how they talk nowadays about kids being gentle parented? Jackie was definitely gentle parented to the extreme, as you'll see. As a result, he began doing 2 things at a really young age that no kid should be allowed to do. First, at the age of 10, he was already singing on street corners and in front of stores. Okay, that doesn't necessarily sound so bad. That's just, that was back when people used to sing by cans filled fire and things of that nature. It's not a big deal. But after he was done singing, his mother would buy him wine. Their preferences were normally Cadillac Club Sweet Red or corn whiskey. Either one would do. Secondly, he was doing sexual things at an early age. This could be why promiscuity and alcoholism would be such a big part of his life once he became an adult. When Jackie was 11, his mother had a daughter, Joyce Ann. Her birthday was only 6 days after Jackie's, and some people speculate that their relationship, which became strained later, was because they were both Geminis. Jackie grew up liking music by Al Jolson, Mario Lanza, R&B singer Roy Brown, big band baritone Al Hibbler, and Mahalia Jackson. By the time that he was 12, Jackie formed a small group called the Ever Ready Gospel Singers for about 3 or 4 years. and they performed at various churches. Collections were taken up and the money was given to them. After church, all of the members of the group would shoot craps. More often than not, Jackie would win all of the money that his fellow members just earned, took away from him on the spot. Jackie liked to hang out in the alley, drinking with winos. More often than not, his biological father, Jack Sr., would be right there with him, drinking too. Their preferred drinks by then were Mr. Boston and Muscatel. Wilson and the other kids would get the older guys to buy the liquor for them, then let the other guy have the first drink, or take the poison off the top, as they like to call it. Jackie didn't have much interest in school. He always felt like he'd make a living as a singer, so school was a waste of time. In fact, Jackie was already singing in clubs by the time he was 15. Even though he didn't go to most of his classes, he would attend music classes, and of course he excelled in those. He often skipped school. As a result, he twice was placed in the Lansing Correctional Institute, which is where kids who chronically skipped school were sent. When he wasn't at the Correctional Institute, Jackie spent more time at Frida's high school than his own high school. Often, Frida would look up out her classroom window and see Jackie out there talking to different girls. Jackie quit school at the age of 16. He made it as far as the 9th grade, which to me sounds like he probably got left back at least one time. Being 16 in the 9th grade seems a little off. So anyway, before he left high school though, it was speculated that Wilson had gotten at least 15 girls pregnant. Frida herself vouches that this is true. The future mayor of Highland Park, Martha Scott, who went to school with Jackie, also stated that this was true. Now, also when he was 16, Wilson got Frida pregnant, so apparently she's one of those 15, which is how she can vouch for it. Shortly after Frida became pregnant, a home wedding was hastily put together. It was scheduled for February 22nd, 1951. However, when it came time for the ceremony, Jackie was a no-show. Knowing how Wilson was, Frida and her father figured he'd be at one of those local talent shows. And sure enough, they found him at the Paradise Theater, drunk on stage. When they met him backstage, he told Frida, "Baby, I was coming. I was getting my nerves up." They took Wilson home, and the wedding proceeded as planned. About a month later, on March 24th, 1951, a girl, Jacqueline Denise, was born. This would be the first of a rumored 15 pregnancies for Frida before she was even 30 years old. At one point, she became leery of Wilson and his demanding sexual appetite. "When he came home, I'd get up," Frida would later say. She even got to the point where she didn't even want to see hot dogs or sausage, all because of Jack. They were too similar to what she was already getting too much of. Desperately seeking relief from always being pregnant, she took some advice from a woman who claimed she knew how to terminate unwanted pregnancies. The woman told her to drink a half a pint of turpentine or sit on a hot pail of water, with the water being as hot as she could stand. Remember now, I said she was desperate. So not only did she drink the turpentine, she sat on the hot pail too. Needless to say, this made her very sick, caused her to vomit. When she saw a doctor, he told her that what she'd done would have killed her if she hadn't vomited, but the baby would not have been harmed. Needless to say, she didn't try the solution twice. She was desperate, but wasn't stupid. She wasn't trying to die. That's it for part 1 of the wild, crazy, and unbelievable life of Jackie Wilson. But before you go, let me ask you something. How are you going to listen to just one part and not listen to the other 5 segments? We gave you a sign in the title. We already told you the dude's life was not only wild, not only crazy, but also unpredictable. That means he has too much life to tell in less than 9 minutes. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, then come on back to find out what else Jackie done in part 2. Thank you.